Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and lead your lambs. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and feed your lambs. Come and feed your lambs. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and lead your lambs. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and feed your lambs. Lord, save us, deliver us, O shepherd of Israel. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and lead your lambs. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and feed your lambs. Restore us, revive us, and we will bless your holy name, O shepherd of Israel. Lift up the light of your countenance on us, O Lord. Cause your face to shine on us, and we shall be saved. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and lead your lambs. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and feed your lambs. Lord, save us, deliver us, O shepherd of Israel. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and lead your lambs. Hear, O shepherd of Israel, come and feed your lambs. Come and feed your lambs. Adonai, let this evil pass over deliver us, your chosen ones. Here in the darkness of the night, Lord, hear your chosen people cry. Through endless years of slavery, our heart's desire is to be free. Adonai, Adonai, let this evil pass over us. Adonai, Adonai, come deliver us, your chosen one. I renounce all idol gods. Every altar must come down. I have made the choice to obey the voice of the God of Israel. I will make no compromise. He is strengthening my will. I will serve no pagan idol gods, only the God of Israel. I serve the God of Israel. Every idol god, every altar must come down. I tear it down. Every idol god, every altar must come down, 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 down. I tear it down. I renounce all idol gods. Every altar must come down. I have made the choice to obey the voice of the God of Israel. I will make no compromise. He is strengthening my will. I will serve no pagan idol God, the God of Israel. I serve the God of Israel. Lift up the light of your countenance on us, O Lord. Cause your face to shine on us, and we shall be saved. Hear, O Shepherd of Israel, come and lead your lambs. Hear, O Shepherd of Israel, come and feed your lambs. Lord, save us, deliver us, O Shepherd of Israel. Hear, O O shepherd of Israel, come and feed your lambs. Come and feed your lambs.
We're here at Gomorrah, and this is one of the sulfur balls, or maybe 3 or 4 altogether. It's really crusty and hard around it, so it's kind of hard to get them out in one piece. Just bent the fork.
Wow.
Maybe if I... That's a good sized one. It's still going. That's sulfur. That'll burn right now. Just put a lighter to it and it'll burn till it's gone. Pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, set one on fire up there.
We're gonna set it on fire so everybody can see it burn. See it turning yellow, and it starts melting, turning black. Watch,
And it's
burning.
burning.
Still burning. And pretty soon it'll start running down the wall.
Oh yeah, the whole thing's turning black.
Yeah. That's cool.
Puts out a real strong smell.
Yes, it does. Just the fumes themselves would kill you in no time.
Yeah.
Especially with as many thousands. Watch it drip. Look at that. Imagine that on your arm or your anywhere. It would be already through a few layers of skin by now.
Wow, it's burning right in there too. That's neat.
God was very angry at those people.
Just picking up a piece of actual. Tar du för analys eller? Ja, vi har gjort det før, men det er vel klart for å vise fram. Ja, vi hadde blitt så snurt.
Yeah.
Crossing of the Red Sea. The first time I saw this pillar, I think, was in '82, and my father and my brother, we were going diving where we thought was where the children of Israel crossed the Red Sea. When I first saw this, it was laying half in the water and half out on the beach down there, and I haven't seen it since they stood it up. But we so,
you said it was you know, what was in the water, what was not in the water?
it was
The whole
this part was on the beach, but there was part of it that was laying in the water, and we saw it. We didn't know what it was for sure, but my dad later on saw one on the other side of the water, and that's what made us believe that that was where Solomon thought that Moses and the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, and I think he marked it with this pillar. And there was one right on the other side of where we think they crossed, and that's one of the reasons we think that was the spot where they crossed. But like I say, this was in the water before, and they stood it up over here. So I believe the Israelis think that this was an important.
Because the Israeli soldiers put it up here.
Israeli soldiers put it up here after we found it, and so I think they think that it's an important find.
What year was this? Remember?
I think this was 1982, 81 or 82. Right behind me is Wadi Ratir, if I pronounce that correctly. But I believe it was 81 or 82, the same time we found the pillar. We had a rent-a-car, and coming down to Nueva, we saw there's 3 places like this that go up in the mountains, and in the rent-a-car we couldn't tell how far they went up there. So we drove up a couple and got stuck, and we didn't really know how we could tell how far the wadis went up, and we wanted to know if you could get all the way, if they went all the way through the mountains. And we couldn't tell just by in our rent-a-car, and we couldn't see far enough. So my father had an idea to rent an airplane. So we went back to Eilat and rented a small airplane, and we flew down here over the wadis, and we took a lot of pictures, and we found out that the Wadi Ratir went all the way through. So we figured that that's a good spot where the Israelites could have come from, because it went all the way through there, and that was the only place that they could get through. And so anyhow, we hired the airplane, which a funny thing, the pilot's name was Moses. So he flew us around, and we were able to see all the way up this wadi. We got a lot of pictures of it, and that's what convinced us that this was probably where the children of Israel came out. And then they headed up towards up the beach that way. That's why I think that it was right close to here. Have you been swimming here?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you did? You go snorkeling?
Yeah. Where did you find the pillar exactly?
I think the pillar was, I say it was just a little past that tree, maybe. Just right in there, as far as I remember, is where we first saw the pillar that we showed you earlier that they stood up. It was land, I think it was partly in the water and part out when we first came here. We found that, and
Then you found the wheels out there.
and we went scuba diving right out here. And me and my brother and father, we took scuba lessons at the house, and we came here and went diving our first time. And we just 3 of us went out. We split up a little bit. We were on top of the water. The water is real clear. You can see real good when we were here diving. So we swam out and we're looking. We were split up and we're looking down, and we saw something that looked like it was covered in coral, but the shape was the shape of a chariot, the box. There was no wheels on it. We just saw the box itself. And then we went out just a little bit further, and my brother spotted it first. He saw the wheel on the bottom, and it was quite deep. I don't know. It was. We were amateur scuba divers, so we were lucky that nothing happened to us. But
It's quite deep.
it was, yeah, I think we went down to 180 feet one time because we saw something down there. And my brother saw the wheel first, and I was kind of watching him, and he waved me over and showed me what looked like a wheel. And my brother went down and touched it first. It was a gold wheel. When we looked at it, it looked like it was a solid gold wheel, but my brother went down, and Ronnie went down and touched it first, and we pushed on the gold, and it felt hollow. It was like mushy. It's like I think the wood wheels were covered in gold, and the wood the wood part, I guess, just eroded, and just the metal frame was there. And our father was wanting us to see if we could get it up, but we tried a little bit, and we knew that it would come apart, so we couldn't do anything with it. We left it there, and we tried to mark a spot so we could come back and get the wheel out later. The next time we came out diving, we couldn't find it. And
The sand is shifting.
the sand was shifting, and there was plants on the bottom at a certain time of year. And but we have the pictures at the house. We're gonna get those together, and that proved to us that this was the site. And we think God led us here. It wasn't anything that we did. You know, Dad studied in that, but God really helped him find the spot. And we give all the credit to the Lord. And but we're convinced this is a place, and it's right here. If you go up that way, maybe a mile, and well, probably 2 miles, maybe that way, 2 or 3, there's coral that goes all the way off, and it's just a drop off. And here you go out, and it's smooth sand all across the bottom, and nowhere else. And we believe the Bible's true, that it was a miracle that happened. We believe the sea was parted here, and they walked across. And there's another wadi on the other side. And we think that's the route they took to Mount Sinai. The place. Yeah, yesterday my brother wasn't with us. I mentioned earlier he had a little problem with his passport, so he couldn't come with us to Egypt yesterday and see the column and everything. And he was going to tell you the story about us or him climbing up the mountain in the wadi that we took a picture of yesterday.
In the wadi that the Israelites came through to go down to the Red Sea before the crossing, I think it was in 93 or 94. Eric Limke and Josh Neiswanger was with us on a trip, and my father said we were driving down on the road that goes through the wadi now, and he said, hey, you guys, go climb that big mountain right there and see what you can see, how far you can see down, you know, which direction and stuff. and we climbed up this really big mountain. And on top of it, there was some rocks that were piled up like this, and there was a middle section, and they were kind of wide, like this wide. And so they could actually may have used that as to signal from to another mountain further up in the wadi. So when the Egyptians were chasing them, they said, they could signal up ahead to know how close the Egyptians were to them. And so there, and when you look through it, you could look right to the other mountain and see a pile of rocks on it. And I'm sure that if you climbed the other one, it would have shown the other mountain, another one up ahead. So the Israelites had very good scouting people who were warning them of how close the Pharaoh was coming behind them. So it's really interesting that there's all sorts of evidence that that had to be the route they took. After our father discovered the true path that the Israelites took through the Wadi down to the Red Sea and where the Red Sea crossing site is, we knew that Mount Sinai had to be in Saudi Arabia. So around 1980, we started applying for visas to get into Saudi Arabia, and they always turned us down. And in 1984, towards the end of the year, my father decided that we were going to go there anyway. And so we flew to Aqaba, Jordan, and we got a hotel. And well, we rented a car, got a hotel, and we woke up about 2 or 3 in the morning because we weren't accustomed to the time change and stuff. And we all three woke up, and Dad said, guys, he said, I'm going to go on into Saudi Arabia. He said, it's up to you guys if you want to go with me, or if you don't, here's your plane ticket, your passport, you can just go back home. And we told him that, we couldn't let him go by himself, and so what we did is we drove our car over to as close to the border as we could get, and we took a side road and parked it back off the road a little
behind
ways.
the hill so nobody could see the car.
And we were carrying some snorkeling gear, movie camera, and an underwater camera case for the camera, and bottles of water and stuff like that we needed. And so we started hiking through the mountains at about 2 or 3 in the morning. And we just went up and down these hills for about 14 hours it took us. And when we got over there, we went by a couple guard towers. And then when we got over past the guard towers, we went towards the road, towards the shore.
Nobody saw you.
We saw soldiers out there driving, then we'd hide down, and then we'd keep going after they passed.
And it was a very tiring, it was rough on our dad going that far because he was in his 50s then. And we got to the road, and we decided we were going to walk down to the water and kind of refresh ourselves. And there was a family there. There was like a kid and the mom and dad. And we went down there, and he turned out to be a banker in a town, and he could speak English real well. And he said, well, he could take us on into town because we said, we would really like something to eat. And he said, okay, I'll take you. And so he took us to a restaurant, and we ate, and then he took us to his house, and we actually sat and talked to him for a while in his house. And then we had him get us a cab, and we got a cab, and we drove on into Tobuk, I think is the name of the town. And we spent the night in Tobruk at a hotel, and the next day we hired a car to try to take us down to the crossing site on that side so we could go snorkeling and hopefully take underwater pictures of chariot wheels that we knew must be there. And there was a fence that was along there, and it was a military area, the sign said on it. And so we couldn't go there at all. And so the next thing we did is we had the driver, we tried to explain to him Moses, or Dad would say Musa, and they understood the story. And then they came up with the name Jabal El Laws. They knew what we were talking about, Mountain of the Laws. And we said yes. And so the driver was taking us out there. And when we got close, a Jeep came driving out of the area and started yelling at our driver and told him to get out of here, take them away, get them out of there, because that was also a military area, it turned out. And after discovering that we couldn't get to either of the places, we decided that we needed to go on back out of the country and try again some other time. And my dad was too tired from the hike in and real sore. And he said, guys, I'm not going to be able to make it out the same way we came in. And so we decided to go try to get out through the customs, the actual border where everybody goes through. And when we did, they started questioning us and pretty much said, wait here. And then some military showed up and took us to jail. And basically they accused us of being Israeli spies because of the equipment we were carrying.
But also there was somebody who turned you in, wasn't it?
Yes, we found out later, we didn't know at that time, but a man had called and said that we were spies. Not so very good friend of my father's. And
he knew you were going in there.
Yes, we had told him we were going. And anyway, he let them know ahead of time. So when we showed up at the border, of course, they just put us straight away in jail. And we stayed there for 75 days, being questioned and things. And also, when we first got there, they separated us and took us one by one in for questioning to see if our story would match up. And it didn't.
It didn't?
No, because we made up a story.
How we got in there.
We told them that we hired a boat in Jordan, and that the boat people the guy on the boat robbed us with a gun and then made us get off the boat. And so anyway, we
never
lied.
To take a lie. That's never wise.
And anyway,
how old were you at that time?
How old?
Yeah.
I was 23 and Danny was 24.
Okay. Yeah. You were scared?
Yeah. And how they caught us was they asked my dad how many people were in the boat. And my dad said one person. And then they took Danny and questioned him. And Danny said there was 2 persons on the boat. And when I went there, I said there was 3 persons on the boat, because our story, we didn't get it all together good enough, And so anyway, they knew we were lying. And after they figured out we were lying, we pretty much basically had to tell them the truth of why we came and everything. So then they thought we were spies. And when we first sort of got there, they sent us in a room and they said, walk towards that wall. And the wall had a bunch of bullet holes in it. So we were very, very scared.
It was blood also, wasn't it?
Blood and bullet holes. So we were very, very scared. We thought we were about to be shot. And they yelled at us in Hebrew, stop. And Dad said, keep walking. Don't do nothing, just keep walking. And so we didn't turn around. They didn't shoot us.
If we had stopped, they would have shot us, I believe, because they would have thought that if we had to understand Hebrew, then they would have thought that we were really spies. So So Dad saved us there.
Yeah.
Even though he got us here in the first place, he saved us after he got us there.
Yeah. And anyway, the next 75 days was just a bunch of interrogations over and over again. They kept asking us the same questions to see, because when you lie, the story always changes. You can't ever remember the last lie you told. So, but our story kept matching for 75 days. And we finally, we asked them to let us see an American embassy, somebody from the American embassy. They said, no, there's no embassy. We're not going to let you talk to anybody. And we kept asking, well, when can we go home? You know, and they would always say,
Inshallah.
something like Bukara, inshallah, or, and that means, I guess, tomorrow if it's God's will. I believe. And
Yeah, that's right. And they said it a lot of times. They kept saying it.
we talked about trying to escape, and many times, and we prayed, you know, constantly for God to let us get out of there. And finally,
You made the decision to run away, didn't you?
yeah, we wanted to run, but
I didn't want to.
You didn't.
No.
my dad kept telling me, well, just wait, you know, 7 more days, 1 more week, and if they don't let us out, then we'll go. And then that week we'd get up and, okay, let's go.
There
and,
wasn't anywhere to go, but we were sitting there. But
Yeah.
you know, it was a big area. The only way we could have gone would be at the Red Sea, and there was so much land between us and the sea, we never would have made it.
This was in the city Hackle, was it?
Yeah.
in Hagul, yes.
Hackle. Yeah.
And anyway, it was stupid of me to want to try to escape, because we probably would have been shot also trying to escape. Finally, they said, okay, you're going home now. And
We were really relieved.
Yeah.
Really.
very, very
We didn't know
relieved.
whether or not to believe them or not until they actually got us in the car. And took us back over to Jordan. We said, all right, we're back
And they
here.
took us to the Jordanian border. And at the Jordanian border, we were met by the Jordanian military, and they drove us straight to another jail. And so we were like, oh no.
That was
you know?
very disappointing. Yeah.
And when we were coming into the jail, we heard a man screaming and just, you know, in pain. And they walked us around the corner to go into the jail. And there was a man having his beard and mustache ripped out by their hands. 2 guards were ripping his, and our beards were long.
We've
My
been to
dad-
jail.
My dad had to lift his mustache to eat because he would bite his mustache.
Yeah, mine was long too. Ronnie was lucky; he didn't have much of one. But
And anyway, we thought, oh boy, we're in trouble now. But mainly they just ask us, why did you go to Saudi from our border, you know, because we disappeared from their country and nobody knew where we were at. And plus we left the rental car on the side of the road.
they found the car.
They found the car, and so they didn't know what happened to us, you know, until they let us go at the border. And so they then informed us that we had to pay for the car for that 75 days for the rental car. Luckily in Saudi Arabia, they pay you so much money a day while you're in jail, and you buy your food out of the money they give you. And so we had saved up money actually while we were in there. And so we had enough to pay them, and we still had our plane tickets and stuff because they had took them from us, and passports and everything. And so they basically kept us for 3 days there, and then they let us go home, and they told us never to return to Jordan again.
And you haven't been back here
No,
since that time
No.
at all?
this
My
is my
dad-
first trip since I was in jail in Saudi Arabia. I thought
My
that
dad
was good
later-
enough for me.
Yeah,
No more traveling.
yeah, that's true. My dad later got to go, and they took him out to Mount Sinai and let him see it. And they even got pictures and everything, but then they took the pictures from my father and wouldn't let him keep them. And they said that they were scared that Israel would come and take that part of the country because it was their history, their heritage, the mountain of the laws. And they don't want biblical archaeology over there, really, because it's against their religion altogether.
But now they have a fence around.
They
put up a fence with archaeology signs.
Yep. And there's an altar that had a cow, like I forget which god that is, that they worship, the golden calf and all. And there's also the rock that was split.
Yeah.
And the top of the mountain is black from the presence of God descending on it. And so just by us going to jail, God made people interested in the site. And they thought, well, this must be it, And now everyone is certain that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia, and it is called Jabal el Laws.
Yeah. Well, that's quite a story. You went through there.
Yeah. What's good is that God worked out. He had it planned.
Yes.
And he put the idea in my dad's head to go without permission to begin with, and gave us the courage to do it.
I guess it was tough, but anyway, now we know.
You remember when we were praying that morning? We felt something.
Yeah.
All three of us.
We all
His dad
prayed,
said,
and then we decided to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we woke up at 3 a.m, Dad said, well, let's pray, and Dad said, I think we should go. So we did. Now, this is my brother's first trip back, and since
this has been a good trip.
And I guess it was 24 years.
Yeah, 24 years. Yeah.
No, yeah.
And now the story has been spread all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that,
And other people have also been there and seen for themselves.
Yes, yeah. Since then, a lot of people have got to go. Some people snuck in after we did and got a lot of pictures back out.
Yeah.
They must have been better at sneaking than we were.
Yeah, some are working also in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, that's
could
true.
Go up there and confirm the story.
Yeah, Vivica.
Yeah, and this Caldwell people.
Yes.
They were there for 12 years, and they sent pictures to your father afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And finally, they did even scuba dive on that side and have found chariot wheels on that side also.
Yes.
And there used to be a column that Solomon put there to mark the crossing site on the Saudi Arabian side and on the Israeli side. And so Solomon knew where Mount Sinai was years and years ago. Why we lost that knowledge, I don't know.
Well, we're standing here in the ancient city of Ashkelon. Last time me and my brother were here was 1979. It's changed quite a bit, but when we were here, we were with our father, and we hiked around all day around this area, looking at everything, the pillars, columns, and everything. Real interesting place to visit. And after walking all day and looking around, it was a hot day. And after we got finished looking around here, we went to, we took off down the beach, and, we were hot, so Dad decided we need to go for a swim, so we found a nice flat area to swim right past here, a little ways. And so we went out swimming to cool off, and my dad was out in the water waiting. He actually bumped his toe into something, Me and Ronnie were swimming there beside of him. He asked us to see if we could go down and find out what was under the water that he stubbed his toe on. And me and Ronnie, we went underwater. It was salt water. Stung our eyes a little bit, but we saw these round, they look like giant pots, and they were round. And
Like ceramic
pots. Uh-huh. And so we saw those and told Dad what they were in that, and we didn't think that much of it. I mean, we thought somebody may have seen it before, but he ended up telling the was it
Israeli Antiquities Authority.
Israeli Antiquities Authority, and they had never heard of it or seen it or anything, and that's what got my father. That's what got him started over here. Getting permission to dig other places because he had found those. They ended up being burial pots. Like Philistine
burial pots.
Uh-huh. And that's I don't know.
Almost everything we found was by God letting us stumble on it. That's about
which
it.
that was a good example, him stubbing his toe and finding it. But so that's how we got our foot in the door as far as being able to come over here and dig.
On other side.
And yeah.
Okay, we're here at King Solomon's Mines, or Zedekiah's Cave. After digging in the Garden Tomb, we all talked about it and prayed about things. And